Today on this old axe, we are going to attempt a truss rod adjustment on my 40-year-old Yamaha FG420. Might be hard to see, but there is just a slight bow to the neck, meaning that the end of the neck is up. What we want to do is adjust it so that that comes down. We want this here fretboard to be as flat as possible, and the truss rod is how we do that. So here's a professional artist's rendition of what we're looking at. You'll notice that the neck has a slight bow to it, and what happens is when you're pushing down on the string to create your new note, what happens is the amount of bend in that string will make your note go sharp or slightly higher than it really needs to be. If that neck is completely flat, the action that it takes to create your new note will be less, and you're going to get a more true note. So what is a truss rod and how does it work? The tension of the strings on the guitar pulls your neck forward, creating that bow. The truss rod is basically a metal bar that is buried inside the neck. This is looking down at it from the top with your headstock at this end. Inside the sound hole, you will notice that there's a little adjustment there. It's an Allen key. What happens is you tighten on that Allen key, it wants to make this rod shorter because the rod is actually curved. And when you tighten this here nut or this here nut, it wants to shorten that rod, pulling up on the rod. That creates pressure on your headstock to go down. And that is basically how the truss rod works. So in order for you to tighten the truss rod, what's going to happen is this is going to go down, and that's going to create more pressure on the strings. So you don't want to burst your strings. Let's put a capo on here, and then we will loosen the strings. We don't want any pressure on it while we're doing the tightening of the truss rod. So we're not going to restring the guitar today. We're just going to do the truss rod adjustment. And if you are going to do the truss rod adjustment while you are changing the strings, it would be my advice to only do that with the old strings, do the adjustment with the old strings, and then put the new strings on, because you're going to be tightening and loosening these a few times, and you do not want to burst the new strings. So you take a chance at breaking the old ones. So when you loosen off your tension, always start with the lower bottom or thinner strings first. You want to loosen them off first, because when you loosen off these big heavy strings, there is going to be more pressure put on these strings, and that's where you're going to break one. So now we've got this down to no tension. We put the capo on there because we don't want these here strings to all bundle up. Basically, we want to keep at least a little bit of pressure on them. So with that, we find out which of the Allen keys are going to fit this best, and for that I'm going to have to be in a different position. So basically, to lower the neck, what you want to do is tighten the truss rod adjustment. So you usually just do like a quarter turn at a time. It was a little loose to begin with, so I don't think there was any pressure on it. I'm going to take a look at that now. And that is fairly flat, but there's also no tension on it. So my advice to you, of course, is that you only tighten it a little bit and then put tension back on the strings, tune it up, and take a look at it there. But I know that this one was out a little more than usual. So there we go. Now, as I say, you want to put it in there and tighten to make the head of the neck go down, but you only want to do about a quarter turn and then retune it, check the action, check everything at that point, and see how it looks. If you have to re-loosen it and go over them again, so be it. It's better off doing that than creating an issue. The other thing is, if you want to move that and it stops, do not force it. If for some reason that thing doesn't want to turn, wiggle it back and forth a bit, loosen it a bit, see if it's just a one spot. But if it stops and doesn't want to go any further, don't force it. Take it to a professional luthier. Okay, let's tune it up and see how she sings. Okay, so I've tuned it up. Now I'm just bending the strings to get them settled. It might take a little bit for the neck to get used to where it is as well. I look down the neck and it does look a lot flatter than it was before. And what basically that does is it brings the neck back and creates less room for the action here. So it might take a few times of tuning it to get it in tune. Now I do have this tuned to D, G, C, F, A, D. It's a little lower than your basic tuning, but it has a nicer tune and tone and everything. That's where I play. So the next thing you want to do is start going up each note, listening for buzz. Because you've brought that neck down, it's going to be closer up in here. So you want to make sure that you don't get buzz frets up here. Now the truss rod basically only adjusts from here to here. So these here frets up here are solid where they were to begin with. So there's a slim chance that you may get some buzz off here. Now that usually is going to happen in the bottom 3 to 4 frets, but you want to go through each one now. See, there's possibly a little bit at that one. Now you want to do that with all your strings anyways. Go up about as far as however high you usually go. I don't go much beyond the 12th fret anyways. So I want to make sure that there's no buzz in any of those strings. So continue on until you get to that part. Getting a little bit of buzz at this one, and I think it's from this here. I might just need to hammer that fret down a little bit. We're going to check and show you how to figure that out next. So I got no buzz on any of them except for possibly this one here. So I'm going to look at it, and That is where I'm getting the buzz, is right off of this fret here. So what I'm probably just going to do first off is just move this out of the way and give that fret a little tap to make sure that it is seated completely. That will be my first thing to do. And how are we gonna do that? Well, off to the bench. So just before we go hammering on that fret, what we're going to do is take a straight edge and put it down between the strings on the frets. Now, what we want to do is make sure that we have no rocking. If you hear a tick-tack, tick-tack, then you'll know that there's a high one in the middle. And I am not hearing a high one in the middle on any of them. You'll notice when I put it down, there's a slight bit of wobble in the middle, meaning that these ones aren't touching the frets. That's fine as long as you're not getting buzz. That shows that there is still a little bit of bow in the neck, but I'm also not getting any sound off of that fret that we were thinking was the issue. If you get a slight bit of resistance here, where the center part of the ruler is scratching on the frets, that's okay too. But the big thing is you don't want any rocking. You don't want this thing to go this way, because that means you've got a high fret somewhere in the middle. So let's go back to that one. It's very slight, and I don't play up that way very often on the large strings, but I am going to give this one So this fret here is the issue. I want to just tap that a little bit to make sure that it is seated well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th fret. And just at this end, there was no buzzing. I went through all the strings and had no buzzing on any other one, just that one. And it is, I said, very slight anyways. So I might be able to even just not really file that down. I'm going to first give it a slight tap and see if that is going to do it. We're going to put this down on so that the support I'm getting from underneath is directly on there. I don't want to hammer it where I'm putting pressure anywhere else on the guitar. I want to go straight directly down on that one spot. So I'm going to use my, you're not going to see it very well because I'm going to be using my other hand. Well, I guess I can use this hand, but I'll probably just hammer myself in the thumb. But oh well, that's all for naught. So I'm just going to basically make sure that that is seated properly. I don't want to hammer this really hard. I want to make sure that this fret isn't worked its way up in the last 40 years. So very, very light tapping. Swing her back around and okay, so obviously you can hear that. First off, let's take another look down here. And believe it or not, I can see that that one fret sits up a little higher. And that's why I'm getting the buzz, because the neck is as flat as it can possibly be. Flat as anything over here. There's still a slight bow on this end, but I'm not too concerned about that. You gotta pick and choose your fights here. But when I look down here, I can actually see that fret sticking up a bit. So let's give it one more shot. And it was this one here. So we're going to try it one more time. Try and keep the string out of the way completely. Just make sure that that fret is seated totally. Okay, let's test it again. So the next thing is then, I'm going to see if I can find a file and just file that one down a touch. Okay, so I can't find my rat tail file. I guess I'm going to have to find it sooner or later. But for right now, what I'm going to do is take a little bit of sandpaper and try and get just the top of the fret. I probably shouldn't be showing you this, because it's not an approved method, that's for sure. But it seems to have worked. Or at least a little bit. Okay, so at least I know where the adjustment has to be made, and it's right there. Try and do this without touching the actual fretboard. I'm using sandpaper, yes, but I'm trying to use as little as possible. And I can see where I've scratched the fretboard. But I can also see the little fragments of fret. So me. Voila. Good enough for the girls we go with. I'm not a professional. I don't do this for a living, so there we go. Just one little bit of buzz. Which has gone away, at least in that position. Voila! Truss rod adjustment complete. So that is basically where we go with it. I'm not going to touch anything else on it because I'm pretty much happy with the way it's playing at this point. So what I did notice is that I probably should be restringing this before very long. I am starting to get tarnish down in the bottom strings here. Maybe that will be my next video when we attack this here particular fret and try and get it worked down a little bit, and we'll go from there. And it might be because these frets down here are fairly worn. Being a 40-year-old guitar, I've never had any real fretwork done on it. The only thing I've ever done was in one of my previous videos that are on here, I polished with the 40000 steel wool. So with that, thanks for watching. Please share, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please check out the other videos on my channel. But at the same time, remember, I am not a licensed luthier. I am just a hack that's doing this for fun. So don't do what I do, but learn from my mistakes. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Share, like, subscribe. See you next time.